Hello everyone. Today I'm going to make a quick video about load development for the Mosin Nagant M44 Scout Rifle. Now first off I want to say I realize the true nature of a quote-unquote scout rifle may not be exactly what this M44 is, but I think everyone that's watched so far can get the idea that putting an optic on a 1946 Russian war rifle and the placement of the optic and all that is sort of like making it into a scout rifle. Okay, so for my purposes, I'm going to call it a scout rifle, even though it's not really a scout rifle. Okay, so today we're going to talk about load development just a little bit, and I'm going to be shooting cast bullets in this gun. I actually started with a start load that I got out of this Cast Bullet Handbook. And if you're going to shoot cast bullets, I highly recommend the Cast Bullet Handbook from Lyman. This is the 4th edition. It has a section on 308, which I've used, and I have a bunch of notes and stuff in here and printouts from my Lee manual regarding lead hand loads and all that. But also has a section on 7.62 by 54R Russian, which is what we're dealing with today for this M44. And in particular, down here at the bottom is the Lee 312 185 1R bullet, which I cast and powder coat and gas check. This is a new color I got not long ago. I don't know what it's, some sort of wine color or whatever. But the point is, these are the same bullets that are in this book. Okay, so as my starting point, I've got the Lee bullet and the Lyman manual. So I cast these bullets myself, powder coat them, gas check them. They're supposed to weigh around 185 with the gas check and the powder coating. They're somewhere around 190, I believe. Most of them balance out around 190. The point that I'm trying to make, though, is that I want you to start with a good source. If you're doing your own thing, you got to be very careful. You don't want too low of a load because you don't want to have a squib. You don't want to have detonation. Okay, but you also don't want to have too high of a load because you don't want to ruin the gun, have something blow up, or just tear up the bullet trying to get it out of the gun if it's going way too fast for the hardness of the alloy and the lubricant and the pressure involved. Basically, velocity and BHN, if you read the Lee book, has a lot to do with whether or not the material can take the velocity and the pressure involved. So these are my hand-cast, powder-coated, gas-checked bullets that I'm using to make a load. Now, what I was looking for with this gun was to make it accurate and to come up with a great hand load that I can use to shoot the gun a lot and make nice groups. And I wanted to prove to myself that the gun could shoot much better than it ever has with factory ammo. So starting with this as my guide and those bullets, I bought Privy Partisan brass, however you pronounce it, 7.62 by 54R brass, which is the rim. It's long like that. So the PPU brass is what I got. I've used 2 different sets of primers, which is going to play into my equation here. I used to have Cellier and Ballot primers. I'm down to just a couple of them left, so I've been starting doing some loads with Winchester large rifle primers because that's what I normally use for my large rifle primers. And I think I'm getting a little bit of a spread from my load that I thought was good. I'm starting to see a little difference, and I think it's from the primers. So let's get into this. Because I had never used the optic before, I had never sighted it in, I had nothing to start from. So I made up some generic loads using the powders listed in this book, which if you read them, you'll see it lists 2400, SR 4759, IMR 4227, 5744, IMR 4198, N133, and Reloader 7, RX7. Well, I have 2400, I have Reloader 7, I don't have any of the others. So I made some loads with 2400, I made some loads, start loads with 2400, start load with Reloader 7. Somewhere along the line I threw a Varget load that I made myself in, but that's a lesson for another video. But just to get the optic sighted in and to get the gun on paper, I put a target at 25 yards, and this is where I started. If you look, it was down here. And it worked its way up. And once I got what I thought was a good load, I took 3 more shots. And so my first load here, and I have all the information written down in a book, and I'm not going to give the numbers of all the grains and all that stuff on a video because I don't want to be liable. But this showed me a lot of promise. I said, wow, that's really cool. Okay, so that's 25 yards though, so that's really, really close. And then once I started to get on paper, so to speak, with that group, I shot this group, which is horrible. And this is 50 yards. Okay, so I got this terrible group. I got that one that looked, showed promise, and I wasn't very happy about that. Well, I tweaked the load, went back to the range, got it sighted in, and this is the group I got. Now, so far, I'm going to tell you up front, spoiler alert, this is the best group I've had so far from the gun. And I've had the gun for 20 years or so, and this is the best group I've ever gotten out of the gun ever, with any kind of load, factory or otherwise. Now this is 50 yards, so we got to keep that in mind. It's only 50 yards. But this is a really nice 5-shot group. So I said, wow, this is the bee's knees. This is an awesome group. I'm going to replicate this. I'm going to make a whole bunch of them and see what happens. So as I was saying, I made up more loads with the exact same amount of powder, and at 50 yards, this is what I got. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These other ones are 22s that I was shooting at 50 yards. And so without the flyer, you're looking at 1.25 inches, but with the flyer, it's over 2 inches. Now, here's the thing. This is a lot different than that. But this was with the S&B primer. It was also shot much slower. I was not in a hurry when I took these shots, and I used the S&B large rifle primer. These shots, I was in a hurry, and I used the Winchester primer. So now part of my load development, I've got to go back with my last S&B primers, I think, and try the same exact load and slow down. Now the next variable that I didn't talk about yet is my red dot. It's a green dot, red dot, the Pinty that I showed in the other video. Now that has a 4 MOA dot. A 4 MOA dot. So when I went out to 100 yards with my 4 MOA dot, I got this ridiculous spread. Okay, this is 5 shots. I mean, if they were all in here, in like a 3-inch group, I'd be happy. But they're not. One's way over here, and one's way up here. I mean, even without this one, I'd be okay. Like, I know I need to tweak the load more, but that's ridiculous. But with the 4 MOA dot, it's very hard to get a 100-yard group to come in because the circle, the dot, is covering 4 inches. So the next thing I need to decide is whether or not I'm going to try and change that or get a long eye relief scope. So that's an equation for a different day. I have a Varget load I started to do that shows promise. It looks pretty good. It's not great. One that I have right here, but that shows promise. 50 yards, first time out, you know, for my generic start load that I made up myself. These three are nice and close. These two are a little off, but I'm going to go up and I'm going to go down because I'm not sure where I am since that was my start load. So, so far, 2400 is the boss. That one's got the best load. That was this one. And I need to go back to the other primers. I just want to do a series of load development videos, and this is the first one. I will keep you guys in the loop as my process changes and as things get better. I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.